welcome everyone. We're so glad to have all of you here with us. We saw that about 143 people were registered, so we're excited to have lots of people here to help to learn about awards at the BSR. My name is Courtney Quaintance. I'm the programs coordinator, so I do a lot of the technical things regarding applications, and I publicize the awards, and I sort of shepherd the faculty through the selection process. So if you have questions about process and logistical things, feel free to direct them to me. And I'm going to introduce first my colleague, Angela Trentacoste, who's going to tell you a little bit about the humanities programs and also maybe your title, which I didn't mention. Yeah.
No, I'm Angela Trentacoste. I'm the Peter J. Smith Fellow in Archaeology here, so kind of a recent reincarnation of what used to be the assistant director. And I'm involved in the archaeology programs and helping Courtney coordinate some of the academic events here as well.
Okay, and then our next presenter is Marta Pellerini, who some of you may already know. And Marta, you want to tell them a little bit about what you do?
Yes. So I am the visual art residency and program curator at the BSR. So my job is to work with the artists in residency and to curate the public program of the BSR. So exhibitions and open studios of the artists and talks and to help them with their network in the city.
Wonderful. Should we talk maybe a little bit about the awards in general before we move to the award holders? Just to say that we have that as you know, I'm sure the BSR has a range of awards over the arts and the humanities. And some of them are residential, most of them are residential. And we have what, 7 studios?
Yes, in terms of artists, the awards are all residential. We have 7 studios for 7 artists. And the awards could be 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months residency. They live here, and yeah, they work here, and they eat here, and they and the awards can, you know, are for not only UK people, like British people, but also for people of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and we're really trying to focus on encouraging Commonwealth scholars to apply this year.
Yes.
And this year we have a new residency in the fine arts for an artist resident in Scotland,
Yes.
the Wilhelmina Barnes Graham residency, which we're very excited to be able to offer. And hopefully we'll be able to offer it in the future.
Yes.
And is there anything we should say about the humanities awards, just sort of in general?
Just like the art awards, they're for different amounts of time, and they're for everyone from pre-doctoral level up through advanced people toward the already experts in their field and established posts. So check out the website for what's coming up.
Yeah, and most of the awards are posted on Slide Room now, as I'm sure you all have seen who are attending here. And that the Ampersand is due the 17th of November, and the rest of the awards are mainly due the 11th of December. So we hope you'll head on over there and apply. And we should maybe point out that if you have questions, you can enter them in the chat. But what we were going to do is first have we have 2 former award holders here that we're very excited to be able to bring to you. And so they will talk a little bit about their experience applying, and then what it was like to be at the BSR, and then how they've brought the BSR experience into their careers. So Marta, do you want to introduce our people?
I'm very happy to introduce both of them. We have with us Laura White, our Ampersand fellow last year. And she was at the BSR for 9 months. And Hardeep Dhindsa, who was our Leverhulme study abroad student, and he was at BSR for 12 months. I think that I don't know if Laura or Hardeep want to.
Maybe Laura starts. Or
Yeah,
Laura
Laura wants
sorry.
to start first.
I like being called Laura. I was called Laura in Italy. So
Yeah,
it's nice to be
yeah, very Italian.
Okay.
Maybe we'll keep the questions until after the presentations. I see there are a few questions already, so yeah.
Okay. Well, what I've got about a 10-minute presentation, and I've also got a PowerPoint, which is a few images that kind of reflect the British School, a bit about the place and what it looks like as I do my 10-minute presentation. So I'll just share my screen. Okay. Okay. Is that working? Okay. I was the Ampersand Foundation Fellow, which is a fine art award from September 2022 to June 2023. So I was here for 9 months. I applied for this particular award due to its open brief. It was not subject specific, so it did not specify any particular way of working, which really fitted my practice. I needed to find a unique idea to focus my application around, one that connected genuinely to my practice and was specific to Rome. I'd visited Italy many times and Rome a few, but nothing particularly came to mind until I talked with previous award holders and then started to identify areas of research and specific materials associated to Rome. I started to look at the material salt, and things quickly then evolved. I was looking at salt's material possibilities, finding an enriched historical and political context in Italy, in particular Rome. My practice is very material driven, and salt was a material I had used before, such as making salt dough, using it to rust metal, and documenting salt licks, which cows are sculpted with their tongues. Also being very interested in food, the use of salt in cooking and preserving, such as curing meat and fish, aging cheese, and all sorts of other processes that I was interested in, where salt is a key ingredient in Italian food. When I started to look into salt as a material in the context of Rome and Italy, I found out about the Via Salaria, the famous salt route that connects Rome to the east and west coast for trade. Roman soldiers were paid in salt, which was the origin of the word salary, and there are many other interesting connections between salt and Rome. In my application, I outlined these interests, which I researched as much as I could, and described the ways that I work through fieldwork, studio practice, and writing. My proposal was focused in terms of what I was interested in and how I would make a start, but was open in terms of what would happen, such as outcomes. I always think you have an inkling when you're onto a good proposal, when you're really excited about when writing it. And the more you look into what you want to do, the more possibilities open up. And this is what happened when I was putting together my proposal and application, looking at all things salt. Before my interview, I did a lot of research and preparation to develop my initial application proposal. This was really enjoyable for me, and I discovered all sorts of interesting avenues to look into, books to read, and places to visit. I could see my project expanding and all the possibilities that could open up for me in Rome. At the interview, I did a 7-minute presentation, which included a PowerPoint, covering my work and previous experiences, married with the things I wanted to do in Italy, such as working with food producers and chefs, mapping the route of the Via Salaria, and perhaps walk part of it. Again, this process opened up the project even further for me. I felt that if I did not get this award, I would still try and find another way to develop this project in Italy. It has so much potential for me. I've applied for other residencies in the past and been unsuccessful, and on reflection, those proposals were probably weak in terms of me not really being invested in them or excited about them. It really makes a difference to be genuinely interested and passionate about the project you are proposing. When I heard that I got the award, I was elated, but also a bit apprehensive. What was it going to be like to be there for 9 months? But as soon as I got to the BSR, I settled in straight away, which I kind of knew would happen as I love new experiences, new places, new people to meet. My practice really thrives from being in new locations, as my work is very much about absorbing the material environments I find myself in, and ones that are unfamiliar. Also, when you arrive at the BSR, you're made to feel so welcome, such as welcoming events and activities settle you in. In the months before going to Rome, I used the time to explore salt in my studio in London, making works using raw salt and mixing it with other materials. I was aware I would be going to a new studio with none of the materials and tools I had in my studio in London. So I wanted to be at a stage with the materials so that once I got to the BSR, I would have an understanding of what I would initially need to start to make work. Being there for 9 months, I decided that I would not think about making any work for the first 2 months. I spent every day walking around Rome, visiting museums, markets, churches, and walking everywhere, sucking it all up. What actually happened after about 6 weeks, I was itching to get started in the studio. So I ordered bags of salt and flour and started it with making work with salt dough. Work started to evolve with echoes of the things and stuff I'd been looking at in Rome, Bernini sculptures, the cobbled stones on the roads, and food from the markets. I did not feel any pressure to rush into making work or stay within the limits of my initial proposal. This was really encouraged by the staff at the BSR to be open to all that Rome could offer and the unexpected avenues you would go down. I think for many award holders doing shorter residencies, it is good to not worry so much about making work, but to explore Rome and everything that the BSR offers, such as the trips and tours you can sign up for. You get a lot of support to organise research trips. For example, I wanted to visit Monte Testaccio, which is a hill of discarded amphoria. This was organised for me, so a group of us were able to go. There are lots of opportunities to piggyback on other award holders' research and trips offered out of Rome to archaeological sites and museums, not to mention the many social activities and invitations, such as to other academies, open studios and parties. What is so special about the BSR is that there is so much knowledge in the building. Award holders, staff, librarians, and all sorts of visitors. You can find yourself on a walk with archaeologists, accessing sites not open to the general public, and then having dinner with art historians such as Alistair Sook and Mary Beard, all in a normal day's activities. The BSR gives you access to places and people. Life at the BSR is amazing. I loved the fact we all ate together. I'm quite a private person and like to do things on my own, and most days I was very independent. So having the meals was a moment in the day to catch up with others without having to make arrangements. There is, of course, loads of opportunities to eat out, which I did a lot. Most of my time I spent in Rome, but also I visited other cities such as Naples, Bologna, and Florence. I also did a cheese course in Tuscany for a week. There was so much to do in Rome, I did not feel I wanted to be away from it for too long. I had to visit London to install a couple of exhibitions, but apart from that, I did not come back to the UK apart from Christmas when the BSR is closed. I love my studio at the BSR, to be able to live with and in my work. I was making works using dough and they needed a lot of taking care of. I was responding to the material transformations, such as drying dough over and near the radiators, which needed constant monitoring. So this kind of setup was perfect for the work I was making. It's an intense relationship you have with your work when you are living in the studio, and you go places with your practice that are surprising and unplanned. Being away from London and my academic job really gave me the space to see where my practice would go without pressure. I was able to develop my work in relation to food and in particular dough. I met some amazing people such as cooking with food writer Rachel Roddy and collaborating with an artist from the German Academy where we would cook together in her studio kitchen. Marta Pellerini, who is the Visual Arts Residency and Programme Curator at the BSR, of course you've met her, takes care of the artist and is a brilliant support, nurturing your specific research needs and overseeing open studios, which happens every 3 months, and is a great opportunity to share with others your practice and research without the pressure of an exhibition. There was also opportunities to show works in exhibitions, and I participated in Gossip at the BSR curated by Marta, Roma Portrait at the Palazzo dell'Esposizione, and Spazio Aperti at the Romanian Academy. These awards feed you well beyond the award period. I find myself now back in London, carried by the experiences I had and the people I met. I have also carved out some projects and exhibitions in Rome, so I have lots of excuses to go back, as it is a place hard to let go of, and I know it will feed my practice for years to come. Okay. That's me done.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Should we move on to Hardeep?
Yes,
and then
let's
we
move on
can-
to Hardeep.
You're muted, Hardeep.
Okay, yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Hardeep Dhindsa. I was the Leverhulme Study Abroad fellow at the BSR while Laura was there as well. And I'm one of the humanities scholars, so I'm just going to talk a bit about how the application went for me and reiterate a lot of what Laura said about the amazing things about the BSR. So in my application, I found that one of the most important things is not so much what I wanted to study, it's more why I specifically want to come to Rome. And like Laura, there was a lot of kind of research done into what exactly I want to focus on. I ended up focusing on the Grand Tour, which is the subject of my PhD thesis. So that's why I argued to come to Rome, because obviously in the 18th century, that's what British aristocrats did. And originally that only formed a small part of my chapter, and that would be in the thesis. But out of everything, that was the kind of most important thing that linked me to Rome. So that's kind of what I moved with. And that's from talking with the other humanities fellows, that was really what kind of was similar between all our applications. We really had that really strong connection to Rome involved in our research. Another thing that was really helpful for me was searching what resources the BSR already had. So for example, the library is so fantastic. We have 24 hours access to it as fellows, and there's really good work happening to digitize the collections. I mean, compared to like the beginning of my 12 months to the end, it was amazing how much more had been digitized, and it's all available online. So I would really recommend seeing what sort of collections we have. I mean, we have so many photographic collections, we have diaries. So for me, there were a lot of Grand Tour diaries that weren't digitized, but they were listed. So it meant I kind of had a foothold in my application to learn what I would be researching. And general advice for the application is, with your research, to have a really strong starting point rather than an entire project that's conceived beginning, middle, end. Because one of the nice things about being at the BSR is kind of seeing how your research evolves. So having a really good starting point leaves you open to kind of seeing what happens naturally when you're here at the BSR, and that kind of encourages you to use the resources that you previously didn't know about. So for example, you wouldn't at the time, I mean, in my application, I'm saying this with hindsight, in my application I did kind of have a conceived beginning, middle, end, but I absolutely did not follow that plan. And it's just one of those things, when you go there, you kind of get the scope, you kind of get the lay of the land, your project starts evolving naturally. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you kind of don't know what the end goal of the project is. I think it's just really important to have a solid starting point. As for my time at the BSR, I mean, I'm really just going to reiterate everything that Laura said. I think the best part is meeting people from so many disciplines. It is so refreshing, and I feel like no two conversations are the same. One of the problems I had was I started my PhD during COVID, so before the BSR, I was kind of mostly confined to my kind of online cohort network. So going to the BSR was really this exploration of research interests that I had previously not known about. And it's really nice when you're just sitting at dinner. I mean, I'll be talking to Laura about food, and I remember towards the end of the year, I ended up finding this paper on the experiences of eating gelato in Naples in the 18th century, and I immediately sent it to Laura. So it's really nice how kind of your research interests really merge with other people's, and you learn a lot through talking to people in general. And this, in the humanities at least, there's a really wide range of research interests. I'd say it's like split between classical archaeologists, there's a lot of early medievalists, a lot of Renaissance people, 20th century Italy. So it's a really nice mix of people. And yeah, it's just really interesting getting to talk to all of them. And at the BSR itself, there are a lot of opportunities to talk about your work. So for example, we organized a show and tell that was every week, and it would involve 2 or 3 of the fellows talking about kind of a very small aspect of their work. It would be like a 20-minute, 30-minute object-based talk. And it was really nice because a lot of the time we'd end up drawing parallels between the 2 people's works, and it was a good way to, if you're having writer's block like I did, to get ideas out there and having people tell you about different approaches you might want to take. There are a lot of field trips. So I went on the Monte Testaccio trip that Laura had organized. That was really, really great. There were trips to like Tuscan castles. We had organized a trip to Sperlonga. We had a visit to Ostia. So it was really, really nice. And what that also gave the fellows to do was kind of get experience leading kind of tours and stuff, and do that kind of teaching element. And I actually got a lot of experience teaching because around the spring summer term, a lot of the UK DTP groups come for like a week, and each DTP group, which is a doctoral training partnership, they come with a different kind of theme. And I was able to lead a group of PhD students on a tour of the Capitoline museums, which was really nice. And it meant that I got to kind of research, I got to practice leading seminars, leading a walking tour, and that was really great experience. We have Italian classes as well, which is really nice. And the tutor, Manuela, is so wonderful and so patient, and is just a fantastic teacher. And there's beginners and intermediate classes. And it's just a really nice way to get to know the fellows. As well as the library access, like I said, it's 24 hours. We have access to the archives, and there's 2 wonderful archivists who are there at the moment. And we also got to do a workshop at the beginning, making a fresco from scratch. That was really fun. And it was really interesting because the artists approached it kind of from a material-based perspective, which was really interesting. But then some of the art historians were approaching from like stylistic and like giving us really interesting side facts. So it was just a really nice experience. In terms of how the BSR kind of helps you in your future, I mean, my project completely changed thanks to the material I found in the library. What originally started out as like a really small part of my doctoral thesis actually just expanded into the whole thing. Just because of the sheer amount of research I was able to do at the BSR and the objects they hold, that the library that is. And we also have access to all the other academies' libraries as well. Like, for example, I did a lot of work at the German Academy's Hertziana library, which is an art history library. There's the American Academy's library. And there's just a really good network. It's called Urbis, I think. Yep, they're nodding, so that's correct. So we have access to so many libraries in Rome itself. So whatever you're researching, there's a lot that you can access. And to end, I just want to kind of reiterate what Laura said, that these everyday conversations that you have with people from different disciplines really guide your ideas. And if you do get to come to the BSR next year, just kind of be an open book and just be open to exploring new ideas. And it really helps. Thanks.
Thank you, Hardeep.
Yeah, thanks, Hardeep.
That was wonderful. Should we maybe go through the questions?
Yeah.
And we need to introduce Sylvia.
It's probably worth pointing out to those of you online that we can't see or hear you, so it's a little bit like shouting into the void.
Yeah.
So if you do have questions, please write them in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can, and we have the
Yeah. But so Sylvia is here and she is our communications officer. She's making everything happen behind the scenes. I guess you can't see her, but so should we start maybe at the beginning? So wait, the first one, can you apply for more than one award? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can apply for as many awards as you are eligible for. But obviously you can only hold one award at one time.
and actually in the humanities-based awards, a lot of them, you'll be considered for all of the ones that you're eligible for through one application. So it depends on if you're applying to arts or humanities, but you can indicate in the application, oh, if I don't get the 9-month, let's say, Rome scholarship, you can say, put me in the pot for a shorter term one. So there's definitely
And then Marta, maybe you could help with this one. I am wondering what stage of career of awardee for the Wilhelmina Barnes Graham Research Residency.
Yes, because it's a new award, I am going through it, and
I don't think there's any.
Yes.
There's no specification as far as I know in terms of what stage of award, but this person is asking, would you recommend, right? And what project outputs would be desired? So I think in terms of, do you have a recommendation at what stage something like this would be helpful to an artist, or any stage?
No, any stage,
Yeah.
for sure, any stage. And what project
Output
would be, sorry,
desired for the 6-week research residency?
In general, what we ask to the artists, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 3 months or 6 months. We ask them to do their own research. And if there is an output, of course, we're happy about that. But if there isn't, that's not the point. As Laura was saying before, we don't want to put any kind of pressure, and we really want the fellows to focus on their research. And I think this is the aim of a residency program. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah. And this feeds into the next question, which is on projects and outcomes in general. And it's the same thing in the Humanities Award. The idea is that you come here with your research, with the research trajectory that the BSR, is, relevant to, but in terms of turning, you're not asked at any point to turn in something specific. So it very much depends on your trajectory, on your project. And that might be, kind of the traditional output, or that might be something else. And so that's how at least the humanities applications are judged on the significance and the interest of the project, not on the outputs.
Yeah, the same with fine arts also. What I always recommend, I think, is to have a very specific focus on Rome or Italy, because Otherwise, artists, and of course I talk about artists, would be able to do the same research like in the UK, or to produce the same works in the UK. So I mean, my recommendation is to have really a focus on Italy or Rome.
And in fact, in the application for both humanities
both,
and
yeah.
fine arts, there's a specific question that says, how would this residency in Rome impact your practice in the case of fine artists or your research project? So why do you need to do this project in Rome, right? Okay, can we mute? Okay, we did that.
Specific in a project outline, what are you looking for / what to include?
I mean, I think we've maybe just answered that, right? Yeah, like sort of lay out the parameters of your project, talk about why you need to do the project in Rome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Laura and Hardeep, do you have any, can you talk a little bit about if there were specific points you touched on in like the kind of outline of your application, other than beyond kind of the general idea and the significance? Was there anything that you,
So in your project proposals?
if you can remember back that far?
Yeah, I think it's just been being quite specific. You know, you could take some very general subject matters around Rome, but I think it's about keying into something very particular and really trying to research that, but also that it's absolutely at the heart of your practice. And I think that's what I was saying in my presentation, that somehow when you're developing a proposal that you're really into, then I think it comes through. And my experience where I've been successful with residencies in the past and not successful, is because the ones I've been successful with, because I'm absolutely genuinely interested in this stuff, and I think it comes through in the proposal that you put forward. Of course, things are open; they change when you're there. But I think finding that thing could be very difficult. And I did it really by talking to previous award holders and just sort of talking to them about my ideas and what I was generally interested in my practice, and whether they could think of things that might draw me into the context of Rome. So it was through quite a few conversations with previous award holders that I suddenly started to make these connections to a materiality specific to Rome. And because my practice was around this focus around a materiality, that's what happened.
Yeah, for the humanities side, I think just avoid being vague. I mean, like Laura said, there are so many different possibilities of research that Rome can provide, but really know what exactly you want to look at, because there's a lot to cover. So yeah, just don't be vague in the application. Really tell the BSR exactly what you want to start looking at, and that will make it easier to answer, like why it's significant, or because kind of umming and ahhing in the application doesn't really tell us what the project is about, I guess.
I think also it can be a bit difficult researching something prior to going somewhere. And I know sometimes people go to Italy to try and look at some of those things they're interested in before applying. And I think that's quite helpful. I've been to Italy a few times, but I didn't go out to Italy prior to writing my proposal to look at specific things around my proposal. I managed to do that from this end through conversations, but I can also imagine, you know, it might have been, if I couldn't have got that information, maybe I would have taken a visit prior to that to kind of to see if I can find things, because sometimes it's very hard to get that knowledge when you're not in the country as well. So, you know, I think visiting is good. You don't have to, but it's trying to find those particular things that you can write about. You're on mute, everybody.
No, I think we've done these next two questions basically in the previous ones.
Yeah, although research related to practice, do you have anything to say? Is that, I mean, that's something that the BSR talks a lot about, right? Like research oriented practice and practice oriented research. So maybe you can help me match that, but maybe the idea is that if you're coming as an artist to Rome to do research, you need to convince us as to why the research that you're doing, again, as we just said, is important for your practice and how
Yeah.
how it is going to be manifested in your practice? Is that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
how it's Rome specific or Italy specific and relevant to the BSR, I think that's important.
Yeah, good point about being relevant to the community here.
Should we keep, I'm just, because I'm conscious of time, I want to make sure we
Yeah.
can get through as many
Yeah,
of
a
these
brief
questions.
indication of possible
That's, I think we've already, answered that.
Partners, yeah, so this is an important, Sean's question about partners and lives back home. This is something that we're really working on. We are trying to create a family-friendly apartment. But as those of us who live in the building know, it's sort of small quarters. It's a difficult situation for people with children. But we are working on it, and there are some ways that we can work with you. So if you, I mean, we would encourage you to apply, and then we've done some things like helping people find housing off campus and giving them a slightly augmented stipend. The studio situation for artists is difficult because the studios are not safe for children. So that's, again, something that we're really working on, but we would encourage you to apply, and we will do our best to work with the limited resources that we have.
Yeah, I just want to echo that for people with without children, with normal partners who are here on awards of any length, your partner, your friends are very, very welcome to visit you. There is a small charge made to cover additional costs incurred by the BSR, but no, you're very welcome to have your partner come and stay. And sometimes we've had people here for quite long periods of time. If you have caring responsibilities, that is difficult to accommodate in this historic building, but please write with your specific needs, and Courtney will be able to work out what might be possible with a slightly different setup. So please don't let that, if you have caring responsibilities, don't let that hold you back. Just get in touch to see what the situation would be in your specific case, I would say.
And then one last thing about sort of accommodating caring responsibilities. Another thing that we have been able to do in the past is split up longer residencies into shorter periods if we have availability, so that people who have children, for example, can, if they have a 3-month fellowship, they can come for 3 weeks and then go back for a month and then come again.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that is not always possible, and it needs to be worked out, but I would echo Angela saying that we encourage you to apply, and we will do our best to accommodate people, because we want to have everyone here.
Yeah. So the question on the Creative Wales Fellowship, I think that the answer is both.
This is a question about the career stage of the applicant on specifically the Creative Wales Fellowship, and whether they should be early to mid-career.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you could be anywhere between the points of early to mid-career. Roughly, like, there isn't like a specific point of,
But
so
maybe the point of what the person is trying to get at is we're not, this fellowship is not for an advanced established artist, right? That's the only. Right?
No, but
yes,
but
that's
it's
all
not,
so early
it's
to
not
mid.
written on the open call. So most of our fellowships are for early or mid-career artists. So I mean, apply, Thomas, Eva.
Yes. Yes, Tom, I recognize you from our email correspondences. Now, what about Melissa? An idea to explore my relationship with my mother. So this is an idea, this is a question about personal research projects. It's not clear if this is a visual arts application.
She's the one who was asking about the photography.
Oh, okay, so you're a photographer. What would you?
Maybe while you're reading that.
So the question is about basing your project on personal or family sort of questions.
Well, I think in general, you know, the exact nature of the project is not something that the BSR specifies. I think what's important in the application is to demonstrate it in your research trajectory, in your personal trajectory. And also we have a couple of questions about things like earlier mid to career. When applications are evaluated, where people aren't there kind of, you know, using 6 months as an excuse to throw things out. So I think, you know, do read the selection criteria, and where things are clear, you know, that is important. But if you have extenuating circumstances, please note that in your application that will be taken into account. But, you know, if you consider yourself to be early mid-career, you know, that's kind of, I think that would be enough to put in an application. So this is not kind of a thing. And I think that answers the next question as well. How experienced artists need to be.
Okay.
Apart from the studio, what facilities are available to visual artists? We have a workshop for artists that is open every day, 24 hours a day. And there you can find different tools and also materials like colors or I don't know, like gesso or different kind of materials or that plaster that artists may, you know, have left. And of course, there is also like the possibility of improving the tools that we have in the workshop.
Laura, do you want
But
to
also,
talk?
Marta, you were really good at providing us with a list of places to get things.
Yeah, there is also this, like every time, like at the beginning of each term, I have a list of art suppliers here in Rome that I share with artists and like in general, if artists need specific, need to go to specific places, need to I don't know, talk to artisans, for example, I am the person who, I mean, who is like a kind of bridge between them and the city, also in terms of facilities. So I think that, I mean, maybe, yes,
Most recently, one of the artists cut the top of a garbage can. Yeah, so occasionally people use things on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Italian language skills. No, you do not have to have Italian language skills, right, Hardeep? But you do have to be open to learning Italian. We offer Italian classes, but they're not required, actually.
Yes, I was gonna say, Laura and Hardeep, do you want to tell us a little bit about your previous level of Italian and how you developed or didn't that when you were in Italy, and just how that experience was for you?
Yeah, I mean, I did it before I came on. I did a course, so I did an online course over the summer to try and get some handle, because I know Hardeep's Italian is very good and mine was appalling, and actually that just got me started, which was quite good, because I think on the application it did say to have some kind of basic knowledge. So, and there's Duolingo, so I think it's really good between the time you get you'll get your award and going, it's good to start doing some kind of online course just to get yourself going. But like you said, there's a fantastic Italian classes, which I did for the first 6 months, and then I didn't do so much in the last 3 months because I got a bit busy with other things, but they were brilliant. But you know, you don't get a lot of practice sometimes because you're at the BSR and everyone speaks English, so you have to go out into it. You have to go, well, I know the staff, yeah, we're lazy, you know, we were lazy. But Hardeep will have a different experience because he's a very good Italian speaker.
So I came into my fellowship speaking Italian already, because I had previously done a Erasmus program. But yeah, we all have an opportunity to sign up for classes which are completely free. By the way, you don't need to pay for them, and they're like twice a week. But yeah, I don't think most of us kind of had Italian experience coming in, because there were a lot of people in the beginners class, I remember. And yeah, I would definitely say don't arrive with zero Italian. I think definitely doing some sort of summer course is really good. And also it's just a nice excuse to get out of the BSR to practice your Italian. But yeah, everyone comes with different levels. So it's definitely not like a requirement.
You're on mute.
We're on mute. Yeah, we're trying to figure out what ceramicists.
Do we consider ceramicists? Yes, we don't have like kilns here at the BSR, but this is another thing that I can help you with, as I know some places in Rome with kilns.
And we have had some here before, so.
Yeah.
And we have had ceramicists here.
We have had, many ceramicists before, so it's, yeah, sure, we consider ceramists. Would you recommend an early career artist applies for the Ampersand residency? Yes, sure.
Yeah.
The Ampersand fellowship is for artists at any career stage.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay, these questions about sort of whether we'll be inclined to offer the Ampersand Award to an artist working primarily with 3D. This is something that's really up to the faculty and Marta, the selection committee. So it depends kind of on what the applications look like as a whole, I would say, wouldn't you say? In terms of like
Switch things up.
switch, that means like do something different from what we had before. I think it just really depends. I mean, and then our Italian British dual less of a priority because of their existing connections with Italy. No,
we had in the past Italian British residents. So really, that's not a priority.
Number 3, would someone who has already had time working in Rome also seem like a lesser priority?
No, I think here's the thing. I think for a lot of these awards, it's really the project, its reflection, your trajectory on it, and then kind of its relevance to the BSR. And so there's no, I think merit tends to be assessed, merit and potential tends to be assessed on an individual level. There is some sense of balance, but that's in terms of, having humanities awards that aren't all occupied by 15 classical archaeologists. But in terms of, the last person was a ceramicist, so we're not having any ceramicists this year, I don't think it really works that way. So
yeah.
So I would focus, I think, on demonstrating, your project, your trajectory, and that side of things. Yeah. And the same thing, so awards are open. You can hear my accent. I'm American. I did my PhD in the UK, so I had an award here many years ago. Awards are open to Commonwealth citizens. And our current mix of award holders is very diverse, with people from, who hold Croatian nationality, and American, and Italian, and British, and Australian, and Canadian, as well as, I think, a few others.
But we do have some awards that are specifically for people who are either British or Commonwealth nationality or have studied in Britain or the Commonwealth, because we actually get funding from the British Academy and it's required of us.
Yeah.
But in terms of...
And then others are completely open. So like the Simon Key Archaeology Fellowship is not limited to British or Commonwealth citizens.
Okay, printmaking facilities, Marta.
Not here. Again, I can help with that, but we don't have any printmaking facilities at the BSR.
Okay, should the portfolio of work submitted only include the proposed project, or should we show previous projects? What would you say?
I would say when I did
Laura,
it,
I would, yeah, I would ask Laura and Hardeep.
I did both. I mean, I can't remember what we sent with our application, but of course that would have been your past work. And when I got to the interview, I had a mixture. I did a PowerPoint presentation that showed existing work that was relevant to my proposal and things that I wanted to do in Italy as a starting point. So it was a bit of both. But of course, you're going to show your previous work because you haven't anything else to bring at that point.
Question, please. How closely do the images artists apply with have to be related to their research proposal?
They should be as related as possible.
They should be as related as possible, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine to use images that are, illustrating your previous work,
Yeah,
but
sure.
they should be tied into your proposal.
I mean, there is always, I think a mix, of images, of course, images of your previous works and projects, but of course, there should be also something related to the research at the BSR.
And it can be, I mean, when I applied with my project, which was focused around salt, I didn't have a lot of work that was making at the time, but there were elements of my practice that connected to the research. So I think it is mostly the stuff that you've done, but I wouldn't worry too much about it being absolutely the work, because that's the core making. I think you can make links to your visuals about what you want to do.
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
I'm sorry.
So in terms of extending residencies, so you're typically offered an award, and if it's residential, that's the award you're offered. If you are interested in spending more time in Rome and you can find your own accommodation, we also offer Rome fellowships. So that's where you are living independently in the city and you apply to have an affiliation with the British School and take part in the artistic and academic life here. It doesn't come with accommodation or studio space. It does come with some meals. Yeah, but if you're interested, let's say, in spending a longer time and working with the BSR, that might be a better solution. Okay, that I think the next one I think is.
What about? Yeah, and there's a comment about the link being outdated. Oh yeah.
Sorry. What view would selectors take of an artist applying after an enforced hiatus of a few years and looking to seriously restart their practice in the new year?
I think for all awards, if there are breaks due to illness or caring responsibilities or anything like that, please note that in your application, and these are all considered when the award is assessed. And the same thing about the awards that are pegged to a certain number of years after, let's say, PhD, for the 3 years after PhD. If you do have a career break due to caring responsibilities or illness or anything like that, the normal extenuating circumstances,
Just make sure
that would be taken into account when that eligibility period is assessed.
Yeah, so just make sure to explain the hiatus in your application.
Let's see.
If there are themes and ideas in your proposal that aren't rooted in a research context yet, would that be detrimental to your application? I'm not sure I understand the question, but do you, but maybe, yeah, maybe the idea is you should obviously try to articulate a proposal whose themes and ideas are as rooted as possible to the project that you are doing in Rome. Does that make sense?
Let's see.
And then Pippa says that the link is out of date. It isn't out of date, actually. We just updated the Creative Wales link, but Sylvia and I will check on it after the workshop just to make sure, right?
For postdocs applying for Humanities Awards, I do not believe you have to be attached to a specific university. in order to take up a postdoctoral award.
Do you look at applications from those not in universities? If the question is whether you have to be actually enrolled.
Yeah, you don't have to be enrolled
Yeah.
in any university. We have pre-doctoral and postdoctoral awards. And you don't have to be, an affiliated researcher anywhere in order to apply. So just, and you can apply as an independent postdoctoral researcher. I think we've talked about ceramicists, so that was the next question.
Yeah.
We've talked about
Early career.
What is considered? Do you have a?
So the next one is, do you have a lot of resources to accommodate less academic research projects? I am an artist interested in the artist residency. I have dyslexia, so struggle with heavily text-based research.
Yeah, sure. I think this opens also like a wide discourse around what a research is. But yes, for sure, you can.
Research can be looking.
Yeah, can be less academic. Yes, sure.
Laura, do you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah.
Do you have any insight?
Yeah,
about,
no, totally, because I think there can be a misconception about the word research, and
Yes.
every artist has their research. It could be, mine is a materiality engagement. It's a very physical thing in the world. That's my research. It's very in the world. It's not in books. Everyone has their research, and you that's whatever you want it to be, and with no apologies for it. I admittedly, I didn't go to the library very often when I was at the BSR, my research was walking the streets of Rome and cooking. So it's whatever your research is, and you have to feel confident about that. There's absolutely no judgment about the kind of research you might be doing at the BSR or not,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are some of the fellowships
More suited to, so this is asking about which fellowships are suited to artists at which points in their career. All of the fellowship descriptions articulate what the career point is, so just make sure that you look at what it says.
Yes, have a look, because like this, to be honest, I'm sorry, I don't remember each one, but in each fellowship, we of course
it is articulated.
We articulate it, yes.
Okay. Accommodations for disabilities.
Yes, I would say we try as best as we can. If you have concerns, just get in touch directly with your needs. For example, the person writing here can't sit for a long period. We could obviously organize something like a standing desk, and the studio space is very flexible in some ways, and so that's not a problem.
I can also add that about 75% of the rooms come with a standing desk. My room has a standing desk.
Thank you. Okay. Talking about underrepresented groups, would applicants who are older emerging artists be considered? It depends on what fellowship you're talking about. If the Sainsbury this year is specifically for underrepresented minoritized groups, so minoritized ethnicities. So older emerging artists are not an ethnicity.
Exactly.
But we are, in all of our fellowships, we encourage underrepresented people to apply. So older emerging artists would be eligible for the others, right, Marta?
Sure.
The next two questions, I think we've addressed previously.
And we have 1 minute, so.
Let's see if there's just anything that's, again, just all of the eligibility, please check the specific awards.
An American, let's say, so Gisela, if you have been resident in the UK for the past 3 years, yes, you can apply.
It depends on the award, so just check the award that you're interested in.
Would you consider artists working primarily with performance for Ampersand fellowship? Fellowship, yes. Like it's I would be personally also very pleased to work with a performer. Yes.
Should should we keep going or should we sort of wrap it up and post answers to the questions?
Yeah,
Because it's 3:30.
It's 3:30.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe Laura and Hardeep, if you have any concluding remarks, just tips about applications. It seems like there's a lot of anxiety about how to write a good application, wouldn't you?
Well, I think there's no non-subject that can't be included, or any research that isn't included. You know, it's everything. And going back to someone who asked right at the beginning about them making work that's very personal to them, and they're probably thinking, how does that relate to Rome? You know, like there's so many ways to connect to Rome. You know, your work could be incredibly personal, but still really relate to specific artists or architecture, or you know, it's like, just have a look. There's going to be something there, but there's no things that can't happen. That's what my advice would be.
Yeah, and I agree with Laura, yes, totally.
What about you, Hardeep? Do you have any final comments?
Yeah, just basically reiterating what Laura said. I mean, your research is what you make of it. A lot of the questions kind of focus on like, what should I researching my application? But the reality is pretty much every research project is valid in its kind of importance. It's just a case of promoting yourself and your merits and why you should be the one to do this fellowship, rather than the subject of the project itself.
Wonderful.
Like if you're a good scholar, you're a good scholar, regardless of what the project is.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that I'm available to answer specific questions via email. So you can find my address on the website, programmes.manager at bsrome.it. And I think we should probably wrap it up.
The last thing I want to say is we've had a couple of questions about staying over your allotted 90 and 180 days. If you have an award longer than 3 months, the BSR does supply you with the information that you need to apply for a visa. So don't let your non-EU citizenship put you off from applying.
Yeah, and if your award is less than 90 days, we unfortunately we can't help you because we are not legally sort of allowed to sponsor you. So, but obviously, if your award is longer than 90 days, we will provide the information, as Angela said.
I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks so much again to Laura and Hardeep for being with us. Thank you everyone for attending. And if you have any specific questions, please do write directly to Courtney, and we'll see what we can do.
Programs